of our consulting skills training. And today we are entering our lecture number 4. And our main coverage, we try to look on some 4 things. Number 1, to find some methodologies of consulting which are basic one, the most basic one. And also we shall try to see the deep methodology of consulting on strategy consulting. There are some tools you need to know as a consultant, like BCG model, we shall talk about them later, but like the so-called Ansoff matrix, etc., etc. But also we shall talk about internal consultant and external consultant and what are the qualities. We shall try to see also the qualities of effective consultant and non-effective consultant. So I welcome you again today to continue with our training, and thank you very much for registering with the Institute of Management Consultancy. And please, you may register further on our website and become a member or a person who could be receiving materials for this purpose, but also it can help you to grow in terms of your career, work and business. Now, as we go on today, we are entering session 4, and I would like us to start with techniques for best consulting services. Techniques for basic one. In a consulting service, you need to be able to have critical thinking, and you approach a client issue in a very diagnostic manner. Now, there are some tools, and one of them is a basic tool for diagnostic, and that is called a spin model, or a P model. We say 4P model. I've used the 4P model to write a lot of reports, my consulting work, because the 4P model is about problem which the client is facing, the position, whether the client is, you're starting with the position, where the client is, the first P. The second P is the problem which the client is facing. A third P is number of possibilities to address the problem, because normally there might be not only one approach to address the client problem. And lastly is the proposal you are setting forth to recommend to the client about solving a particular problem. But now it can be considered in another way around, which we call it SPIN. S-P-I-N. S stands for situation, P stands for problem, I stands for implication, and N stands for need payoff. And that we are talking about in order to address a consulting work, it is important to ask as much question as possible and get as many answers as possible, and then to go through the analysis process to get what the most applicable one, and then recommend the client what the best solution for the problem is facing. So we try to talk this into depth: the situation question, problem question, implication question, need payoff question. But for those who have been into strategy consulting, or even those who are new, normally in strategy consulting, when you prepare a strategic plan or a strategy, you start by looking on a situation analysis, of which you use some of the basic model like SWOT analysis: strength, weakness, opportunities, and challenges analysis. Both looking on internal and external factors that might affect it. So it's a situation, but also in situation you look on PESTEL model: political, economical, social, technological, and legal issues affecting the client. So it's called PESTEL model. So you may go through that so to get the situation. So in your thinking, you must have that in hindsight, both the SWOC, SWOC, and the PESTEL model. But also there is another technique for understanding the situation that is called stakeholders analysis, including the competitors and the other stakeholders who are engaged with the client. So let's go back to our SPIN model, and that is situation, problem, implication, and need. And normally, the more you go through this model, you are increasing commitment for a solution, client partnership, and a better relationship for tomorrow consulting business. We can put in analog saying about first place is define and design, that is understanding the client issues and problem. Prepare and correct, that is asking question to probe and get some questions. Then you analyze and put up recommendation. You shall talk about case reports later as part of consulting law. So don't worry about the diagram you see. We shall go to the depth of it later. But there are many methods of doing consultant before I go deep into spin model. The first one is insight selling, whereby you want to connect it to how a client can connect it to your customer as a consultant, to convince the customer about what you can do to them and collaborate with the customer. That is insight setting. But also another method is issue-based consulting, whereby the client come to you and you want to address a problem. For example, that currently I'm handling some 2 consultants. One of them is a lot of supplies is happening to the client business and they don't know what to do. So you need to get solution on that. So I need to go deep trying to translate the customer demand into effective solution to do analysis of the problem and to come with the recommendation. But also there is storytelling, whereby you may get some insight about the client. By telling story, it's like you're looking at a movie, the problem and the challenges, and trying to find the end result that can be better for the client. And last one, many times, if not always, people are not ready to change, and therefore a consultant should be ready to be a change management consultant, whereby you support the client to implement a new solution successfully, to get the buy-in. Sometimes the client can recruit you to be an internal consultant and to support the change management with certain level of authority, so that you may see the implementation of whatever you're proposing. So there is about answering stage and the so-called telling others stage. So let's go back to our spin model. Remember, we are talking about the spin model, our PPP. That spin stands for situation, which is like the position. P stands for the problem, which is like the problem in the P, another P. I stands for the implication, which is a different possibilities. And N stands for the net payoff, which is like proposal. Now, to go ahead from there, let's see how do we develop situation question. The purpose of situation question is to uncover the problem or opportunities the client is experiencing from his or her point of view. You need to do your homework to consider alternative sources. You need to look on questions to get information from the client, to probe. You need to use the question to build relationship and to convey interest to the client, to know that really you're interested for that job. Now, normally problem question might be about difficulties, what the client is seeing, dissatisfaction, what areas of dissatisfaction of the client, barriers within the situation you just learned about, because you need to get your homework done. Then the purpose of the problem question is to reveal implied need. There might be a need, but implied need, and build shared understanding. And a question like, how satisfied are you with the current business? How do you satisfied with the market share? Are there specific areas you think could improve? Are you worried about what will happen now that the stock market are tanking? What are the breakdowns likely to occur? Do you have any right people with right skills in your organization? Are you concerned about whether people will change fast enough? How often does the problem of market plungement of market shares arise? How do you need to respond to it? How will the cost and schedule become with this problem? And also I can see that might be a problem for the market, for the accounting and for profitability, which might also affect your shareholders' interest. Those are some of the questions you need to ask to understand the situation as or the problem. Then you need to look on the implication questions. Please remember, I'm talking about the spin model. Situation, problem, implication, and net off. The implication question asks about consequence, effect, and impact. You look on the purpose is to focus on the results, to link the results and problem, but build the motivation for commitment and prioritize to maximize the value for you add. Question like, could that development lead to greater risk of company closure? How might that affect cost, quality, competitiveness, and turnover? What would growth look like with or without our intervention? Could that lead to increased risk of share value decline? Would that lead to higher or lower speed of getting more funding for the project you want to implement? How does that affect your workload, hours, stress levels, career, and how you've seen it? But also you may have the last one, the so-called need payoff question. They ask about value, importance, usefulness of solution. The purpose is to focus on payoff, probe the explicit needs, and to get the client to tell you the benefit of the situation, of the solution. You can see how this builds to commitment for perceived value. Questions like, how much savings would this mean? What other opportunities would this allow to pursue that you can't now? How important is it that? What would that put you relative to the competition? And how would that help provide the infrastructure for the growth? Those are some of the questions that you need to ask to know what kind of value the client is expecting out of your consulting job. So let's go to the case study. Assume you are in an elevator, rapidly descending from the 18th floor, whether you work as a MAC consultant in the financial services department. With you is the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer of the MAC Consulting Limited. It is 2014, stock market is tanking, and cost cutting is the order of the day. You already know that the organization's revenue comes from two places. Number one, commissions on trades, and number two, profit on investment out. Both are down due to stock market condition. There is much concern about the future viability of the company. So I give you 3 minutes for you to come up with a situation question, with a implication question, problem question, and the so-called net payoff kind of questions for purpose of our discussion. So please, you may go back to our previous lecture and trying to see what we covered, but also may download the materials for the study from the website so that you may be able to understand this in context and details if you have got some question about how you approach the spin-off effect or the spin approach to the management consulting. So I will give each other 5 minutes, and then we shall come back and proceed with the work as we cover for what we cover today. So until next 5 minutes, thank you very much. Let's break for the 5 minutes. If you've got any question, please feel free to ask on our YouTube channel or on our LinkedIn link so that we may together sort it out. So until next 5 minutes, let's break for that. I welcome you back. Thank you very much for your patience. And now let's continue with our presentation. And let's go now deep to the expectations of the consultant and the client in the course of the consulting work using this modeling. Consultant will normally conduct further assessment, will deploy some interventions like training resources, promotion, health and wellness activities or facilitation to help the client. We will serve as an expert resource but also provide the means for assessing the results. Always the consultant will provide honest feedback. But for the client, we will normally provide access, publicize, will administer satisfaction surveys, pre and post test, and take additional measures, but also preview what the consultants are advising and provide feedback materials, but also provide honest feedback. Why are we putting this together? Is for one reason, that is to set forth the expectation between the two, the consultant and the client, so that you may know what the client really will do. But also, when the client has not provided you access, you know for sure that's your right, because otherwise you will give out a very poor kind of consulting assignment. And also, I tell people, better you don't do the assignment than doing partially, because in the end of the day, we're not looking forth on the current capacity building or current income flow, but the future retention that will provide you a sustainable goal for success of your consulting assignment. And typically you need to have some additional skills to address issues on the spin or PPP kind of consulting approach. And one of them is to be able to do the research and assessment. You need to be very thorough on action planning, but you need also to be able to facilitate. Nowadays you need to use Zoom facility. You need to be apt with the Google Meeting, etc., etc. But also need to have some customization of the specific programs and selection of training content for the customer. But also is to see the presenter who is going to make a difference too. So you need to have presentation skills and ability to make impact analysis. So if you put in a summary, you'd have some research or assessment skills, action planning skills, ability to facilitate, including the teleconference or media-based kind of facilitation. You need to look on the customization and selection of the training content, but also need to see how you choose the presenter. So presentation skill, and also need to be able to see how do you assess the impact or impact assessment for the purpose. Now the question is how the consultant can get more jobs. We've seen the methodology, one of them using the spin or the PPP approach. The question is how do you get more jobs for that? And we say that more assignments are not coming as a gift. A consultant needs to obtain them in a very professional way. You need to see that the success you get as a consultant is based on your competence, so that more and more people call you for more challenging assignments. Be careful as a consultant to be a foot the door salesperson, that you move from a vendor to vendor to get a client. It's good, but it does not make sense, because consulting is a very noble skill, but also what matters is to get referrals from the client you've done the work with, who can give you more people to get assignment from. Now, I released to you assignment number 15. Describe the techniques for producing best output in any consulting assignment. So please come back or put that as a note as we proceed, marking down what you're supposed to cover tonight. Describe the technique for producing best output from any consulting assignment. Please remember the qualitative abilities that can give you the better, to be competent as a consultant, including the research skills, assessment skills, the action planning skills, the facilitation skills, the training skills, the presentation skills, and also the ability to measure the impact, both the output and the outcome indicators. Those will make you to be a very competent consultant for the purpose. How to get more jobs to continue? As we said, you need to develop relationship. You need to know how to use time effectively. We say that consulting job is very time consuming. It involves time listening to what people say as well as putting forward a proposal. You need to manage your time as well as that of the client, but also need to know that you need to have energy for those around you, the supporting team, so that you may not do everything yourself. You need to be able to delegate some of the tasks to your supporting team, and therefore you need to have a lot of energy to ensure that the team is sustained. Consulting role sometimes is very demanding and can be energy consuming. That makes an end to basic part 1 on the basic skill, the basic technique, which is referred as spin or the 4P technique. To make you better understand, spin means situation, problem, implication, and net payoff. Or the 4P model means problem, position, problem, possible solutions, and proposal. So that's the basic. That consultant should have done. I've done a lot of work on the 4Ps. And many times when I'm writing proposal to my board client, I use the 4P model because that's very, it helps you flow and organize your ideas. When you write a consulting report, 4P model has never left me alone, but it helped me a lot to prepare best consulting proposals. You go back to our website, and you may find everything that is number one that can extend what we cover on the basic consulting methodology. Let's talk about internal and external consultants. We say is a consultant, a manager, or consultant manager. There are internal consultant and external consultant. Let's answer this question. The job of consultant advisors is to improve individuals and organizational performance. In doing so, they may use different methods. Consultants involve careful assessments to see what can be done that will make an improvement. It's a complex assignment, and by the way, if it is not difficult, no need of a client to hire you, because if you can do himself, why should you take you to the press? We say legal advisors, accountants, and management development professionals, they spend most of the time in consultants, but also line managers spend a good deal of the time advising and using consulting skills. So there is an appreciation that most of managers at certain level, together with the legal advisors and the accountants, they are typically internal consultants. Managers have to coach and advise their staff on such matters like work performance, careers. Therefore, the skill and the process of consultation advice are widely used. It's a common thing. So you can't really, the difference is a consultant can be hired for a fixed term period, which is external consultant, or you can be hired with the unlimited, or we call it non-fixed term period, and that we call it as a manager. But a manager who uses skill for purpose of supporting the business is not a manager like our owner. No, he's employed because of his skill to support the business to move forward. That's the internal consultant. Typically, consulting work has caused a lot of success to the business. Like the client might learn about how to do something new, cost can be reduced, productivity can go up, safety can be improved, profit can increase, quality standard can be improved, job satisfaction can improve, absenteeism normally is reduced, new product is developed, skill level can be improved, wastage decline, employment can increase, reward can improve, but also sales can increase. So there is a lot of benefit with consulting, both internal and external consultants. Let me pause this assignment number 16 for you. Why clients would seek the work of a consultant? This we answered it during the module number 1, so please verify it back for better understanding. Now the last one is, what are the qualities to produce the best results of the assignment? I've discussed it before and I've repeated, so just refer back to what we covered. It's easy to understand. Please take note that you may get these materials after registering for the professional work through our website, and then you can download all the necessary presentation slides and materials for learning. Normally, the consulting work has a lot of implication. Organization, they need top advisors, whether it should be internal or external. Even yourself, you need a top advisor, not just a mediocre. But it's only a way the business managers can keep up to date. In one of these notes, Peter Drucker said, "We live in the information age. To be successful, we need the best advice and the best advisors." I repeat, we live in the information age. To be successful, we need best advice and best advisors. How can you turn around to be a best advisor so that you may give the best advice? If you just having some kind of challenges with your competence, you may end up being a very poor advisor and result into bad decision to the client. So automatically the life is changing. There is overflow of information. The question is, how do you the information help you to move forward? You need the best advice from the best advisor. This is our law of assignment number 17, what the essence of Peter Drucker quote in this part. Thus you need to answer it all your time. So a better model for you to understand the internal consultant and the external consultant, we look on this graph here. On the top there is external consultant and down there is internal consultant. External consultant and internal consultant. Now with external consultants, we say that the external consultant is advising the client. You get a job and you're advising the client. But also you may be engaged on a project management role. So an external consultant can be both an external advisor to the client as advisor role, you can see on the left side of this slide. But also the external consultant, as I mark it there, can be external project manager and become an executive of the company for specific projects. Now, with the internal consultant, you may be an advisor by using your specialist to advise colleague in the organization. You might have a team. Normally, most of management, they call up a team and form a team with mixed skills. I remember working in an organization whereby I was a manager. Despite the fact that I was managing certain line of work, we are called to prepare a strategic plan of the organization. And I was amongst the people who was leading a team to support that. So is my internal specialist to advise others and help others because of my knowledge and skill, and also from their knowledge and skill to prepare a document that will make a transformation institution. But also can be an internal manager advising subordinates or colleagues. So is also an internal consultant whereby you can be advising for purpose of supporting the organization. This is called an executive. You may review the work of others. That's part of consulting assignment. In conclusion, in this diagram is we have got internal consultant and external consultant, and they've got similar but different reporting role. It can be at executive level or can be as advisor. Both are consultant. We need to appreciate that consulting is not only for the external consultant, but it also includes the people in the supervisory positions in the organization, in terms of managers who provide daily routine advice to the organization or supporting the team of the staff to understand better delivery of service to what the organization is doing. The consultant's activities can be undertaken from either an advisory or the executive role, both from the internal consultant and external consultant. So if you've got any question on this part, please send to us and we shall respond to it with immediacy. Let's talk about internal consultant role. Management today employ internal consultants. Now the Institute of Management Consultancy is both for internal and external consultants. And we say, for example, a company called Safe Marine Limited and discover the foreign consultant. And if was a business development advisor providing information on market opportunities. He was a consultant for business development. Sala was an internal auditor looking for efficient and effective policy processes. So automatically, Sala, being an internal auditor, he was a consultant. That's why those who are reading on the IPPF, International Professional Practice Framework, it defines consulting, internal auditing, as both assurance and consult. Because an auditor is typically a consultant for purpose of improving the efficiency and effectiveness. And Mina was the information system advisor to help to introduce the requirement for the improvement of organizational performance. But you may have Maneno, who was a training advisor, so he was a consultant on training. Sheba was occupational and hygiene safety specialist concerning with improving work practice as well as advising the issues. Medo was a coordinator for the computer information unit to help to ensure that network arrangement were up to date. But also Ipiana was a public relation officer using his skills and providing information to media. But also Steve is an industrial relation advisor working to establish policy throughout the organization. So all this, they look like internal employees, but they're typically the organization is using their skills and knowledge to further promote the business interest. There are some challenges with the consulting, which are very common, both internal and external. Number one challenge is failure of the client to implement the advices. Why? Because you can't force a client to implement the advice. You may advise, but the decision to implement or not to implement your advice is resting with him typically. But sometimes the client might ignore your recommendations. You might have worked all the night and all the time and ignore. I was working with another company this morning, and one of the companies, and I knew that the people they given me into the management, it will be withdrawn. So I had to force and create environment whereby I meet the top management. And thanks, in the morning I met them and my proposal was accepted. And now they're starting implementation next week, which I'll be supervising from remote point of view. But also sometimes frustration when people are not implementing the proposal. We say you can be working all the night long for 2 or 3 weeks and wasting a lot of time, but nothing happened. So my question is on assignment number 18, what will you do if the client is reluctant to implement your recommendation and inputs? Please, important advice. Never take anything personal in the consulting business. No. Do its professional work. Not the possibility of the client taking your proposal or rejecting it, or deciding not to do anything with it. Because our role is not to force the client to implement, but our role is to provide advice. And you may have the best advice, but there may be some political intervention, political interference that may lead to a frustrating position whereby you have taken money from the client, you expect positive results to add value to the client, and nothing is working. Particularly, especially when you go to the public sector organizations. And that can be frustrating sometimes. Let's now think about an effective and effective consultant. What are the qualities make you an effective consultant and what make ineffective? Both of them are consultant, but one is effective and another one is ineffective. What are the things makes difference on that? So please use this screen in front of you to put as a check mark for yourself and see if you can come out with areas of improvement. Because in the end of the day, the purpose of all this training is to ensure that we continue to improve from where we are to another different position. So I give you 5 minutes break, and when we come back, we shall continue from where we ended to complete our very task. 5 minutes, we'll be resuming back. Thank you very much for your attention, and let's have some time. Please look on the screen and assess yourself. Make self-assessment of your level of consultation and ability. Thank you very much. I'll take this opportunity to welcome you back, that we continue with our session. And I believe that you got time to understand the effective consultant. Number one, listen. You need not to be talking. Today, I was not in control, so I was trying to respond to everything the client was saying. That was not appropriate. So avoid being talking machine, but learn to listen. Learn to listen. Learn to listen and understand. It's better to try to understand than to be understood. I repeat, it's better to try to understand than to be understood. So learn to listen to your client. It's better to keep quiet than speaking anything. There is always a good time for you to speak. Accept that without contradicting with what the client say. So don't clarify. You might know the truth, but there's time for you. Listen carefully. Never be judgmental. Never be judgmental at the first point. But as you move on by getting more information, you can be judgmental. Concentrate on the assignment as a priority. So don't have multiple assignments. It will be a very tanking. Take time to assess the problem. That's the most important issue, because 50% of your time should be on assessment of the problem. And also get to know the problem or the opportunity. Summarize accurately what the client say. Give confidence through the gesture and the behavior. Always nod your head, show that you're writing. It matters a lot. Relationship is more important in consulting than your technical skill. I repeat, relationship is more important to consultant than your technical skill. And then get to know the problem. We say give the confidence through the gesture and behavior. Fulfill the promises. If you say I come at 2 o'clock, be there. If there is something that does not make it to be there at 2 o'clock, tell the client prior. Adapt a positive approach. Not to be negative, but also work to facilitate action improvement. For an effective consultant, he shows himself that he's more superior than the client. You are killing yourself, brother. You are killing yourself, sister. The client say, what client says is important. He will consist that he himself he knows better the organization than the client himself. And that is happening even to internal consultant. Please not sure that. That's why I say that rules of management, the boss is always right. Rule number 2. If he's wrong, refer to rule number 1. I repeat. Rule number 1 of organization, of consulting. The client is always right. Rule number 2. If he's wrong, refer to rule number 1. And this I don't mean that you don't need to open up, but I'm trying to say that never criticize or blame a client. Be objective and support a client. As a toddler, you are helping the person to cross the road. So your focus should be to help to cross the road rather than trying to say you're going slow, whatsoever can happen. You kill the relationship. The ineffective consultant has many irons in the fire. It's been so many tools and solutions. And he may call even number of the team to be great because he's got many solutions, which is wrong, which increase the expense. But also the ineffective consultant is impatient. He has got instant prepared solution. No way. Why? Because there's no instance in consultants. Problem should be properly analyzed. He's interested on his own views, not the client's. He has no confidence. He's unrestful. Fail to deliver until the client calls and calls. This has been a common problem to most of consultants, even on the legal arena. Only point out what is wrong instead of pointing up areas of improvement, but also work on positive change. But no positive change image. So you'll be trying to work out without any positive results on that. My question is assignment number 10. What is iron in the fire? what is meaning of many irons in the fire. In the end of the day, you don't know what is fire and what is iron. You need to have some spare iron outside the fire as part of the work of the blacksmith. It is true that consultant and advisor need to be knowledgeable of their field, but still put the client understanding first. The expertise should support the client need, not domineering effect. Have right bedside manner like a medical field. Patients want their doctors to be top experts, but primarily they want him or her to treat them as people. You may be a doctor with all the A's and the top degree, but if you are mistreating people, patient number one will not be healed. Number two, they will never come to you. No matter of the sickness, the way you handle them matters a lot. That's why I say most of healing for the patient comes not because the doctor are expertise, no, but care. That's why hospital is called hospital. That is hospitality. A care is more advanced than anything in the consulting industry. In the past, too many doctors have been accused of being poor advisors, not because they are technically fault, but because they turn off the client by their behaviors. They can't say, sorry, take easy, it shall be well. No, they will just be lash and rush to the solutions. I remember when I was young, going to the doctor those days, the doctor will start writing the prescription before even hearing or listening to what you say. And say, next. Another person will come, he looks on the head and start writing the prescription. Next. Another person will come and just look on the head and then write a prescription. Before you finish talking, say, go to the prescription window and get the medicine. But today, because of advanced understanding and people, because of technology, a person will ask you, I don't understand what you mean. The doctor will become furious. In the end of the day, he has lost their patience. The same to the organization. Management consultants are doctors to the organization. There are two essential elements in consulting. Number one is technical knowledge, which is very common. And the second is interpersonal skills. The most difficult part is on the interpersonal skills. Because technical knowledge, you go through the examination and pass, through the semester system and pass, through the research writing and pass. But interpersonal skills, they need to be developed. And this is the purpose of essence of this training, to make a difference. So it's very important the consultant develop the bedside manner, whereby a patient can be on the bed. You don't consider your technical skill to be anything rather than your care. People would not remember you by best presentation, but they will remember you by what you made them feel during your presentation. People will not remember you by your best presentation, but they will remember you by what in your presentation. As a consultant, one may need technical ability in the area of the client business. For example, as a facilitator to chemical companies, banks, airline, and other organizations, they require that you have interpersonal and process skills. I repeat, interpersonal and process skills, not only the particular area, but you need to understand the entire process. But not necessarily that you make a technical contribution, because you might not be expert of everything, but understand how it goes about. If you can do both, you are a specialist, you're not a consultant. I repeat, if you can do both, you are a technical contribution and the interpersonal and process skills, then you are a specialist. My question now is assignment number 21. Use internet sources to distinguish between a consultant and a specialist. The only difference, which is very clear, is a consultant not necessarily have got a technical capability of what is consulting on. He has the consulting skills. But a specialist has both. So a specialist is not necessarily a consultant, but also a consultant is not necessarily a specialist. But if a specialist has consulting skill, then he's a consultant. Let's see this case. An entity depends on people being able to use technical systems to improve organizational performance. For a long time, however, we have asked people to adopt their behavior to new technical and structural system of production. Examples include the way organizations are structured to minimize people contribution, whether it be repetitive work on the assembly line or lack of structures for consultation. However, the research work was initiated by Tavistock Institute in London many years ago, indicated the need to design new technology so that people could relate sensibly. One of the earliest efforts to confront the engineering approach to organization design was made by Gracia Metal Company in London. There, Elliot Jacks, 1951, was employed as an external consultant and worked with the managing director, Wilfred Brown, to find ways of involving staff at all levels in the decision-making process. Eric Triss, 1963, and his colleagues developed another approach based on the concept of socio-economic technical system, which encouraged job design to reflect work people's involvement in the design from the early stages. This has seen a number of changes by consultant advisors. In engineering particularly, to various systems from work study through the technological innovation in production to reflect behavior as well as technology. Modern approaches to this area are evident in such processes as quality cycles and autonomous working groups. As a result, more emphasis is placed today in professional consulting practice on involving the people whose work is being changed in the diagnosis and the consideration of improvements. So let's see some questions from the case study. I said that you can download the materials and then the book from the website, or you may email us through the registration process to get the materials for you. Now, question number one, how will I see myself as a consultant? What is your strength? We have learned a lot of practical things as a consultant, particularly an effective and ineffective consultant. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Be honest to yourself. As a result of this analysis, what can you do based on that question to improve your strength, to reduce your weak areas and improve your performance? What the most challenging consulting assignment you've had? What are the many things you've learned from consulting activities? So as you are trying to answer this question, let's break for the next 2 minutes and then we proceed for today's presentation. Thank you very much. Until then, so please, let's have some 5. You may take coffee or tea as we continue. Thank you. Welcome back. Let's continue with our presentation now. And in the next part, having answered the question I posed to you, let's now look on the other area. Please, for still cementing of your understanding, you can see the second video, which is sent on your WhatsApp for the student. We always ask for the WhatsApp number. You can see on your WhatsApp the second video. Go through it and then answer the case study. The answer to case study has been given on the clip we've sent to you on your WhatsApp number. So please compare, but also get more insight concerning what we covered in this area. Now let's see some expectation of the client to the capability of the consultant. Number one, any person who hires another person to advise, they expect to be a person to be competent. Technical competence and emotional competence, social competence, and intelligent competence. Number two, you should have credibility. Credibility is the way you can promise and do what you promise, but also a good track record that comes from credibility. That's why any consulting, and try your best to make sure that you leave a mark. Most of assignments I'm getting as a consultant are coming from referrals. Yeah, get circle, then things goes better. But also you need to be trustworthy in terms of time management, resource, your consulting assumptions and the recommendations. You need to be likable. You need to develop the skills to be likable, but also you need to be business savvy. You must understand the business, the end-to-end need for the business. You must be responsive. I remember Alan Weiss said that he's answering any email sent to him within 24 hours. That's very important. You must be empathetical. That is, to wear the shoes of the client. And you must have the very clear communication capability. So including presentation skill, ability to prepare presentations, ability to prepare PowerPoints and other material relevant. Normally, there is a different school of thought. The client say, I want competence, credible, trustworthy, likability, business savvy, responsiveness, empath, communication, this side, the client side. But a consultant thinking is that you want to bring the results. Reliability. Competence, the consultant thinking for result. Credibility, consultant thinks of reliability. Trustworthy, the consultant think they need to be confident, which is not true. Likability, they talk about credibility, which is both matching what the client. Empath is also the matching on there. Responsiveness, that is also matching with the client. Hired to help. The client don't think that is hired to help, but he believes that is using your understanding of business to deliver results. So if you look one on few which are remaining for the consultant, that is hired help, but also the issue of confidence, which the consultant thinks that you need to be confident, which is true, but it's not much of interest to the client. Want the competence than confidence. Yeah, you want competence than confidence. But also, the consultant think about results. The client is not much on the results, but communication that you expect from you. There are some 5 fatal flaws of consulting. Fatal flaws of consulting. Number 1, the project is defined in terms of consultant's expertise or product, not in terms of specific results. So you need not to be better understanding the business than the client. No, you are there for a very short time. Now, if you define according to what you knew or you saw in another company, a failure to advise is starting from the time you start consulting work. The project, number 2, project scope is solely determined by the subject to be studied or problem to be solved. ignoring the client's readiness to change. Change management should be part of the implementation criteria. Number 3, the project aims for one big solution rather than incremental success. There is no one big answer to every question. No. There are so many other factors to be considered. Number 4, the project entails a sharp division of responsibility between client and consultant. There is no partnership. Consulting is partnership. It's a teamwork. You work together. Today, I finished a presentation of an assignment. For purpose of engaging my client, I used one of his managers to present my work, and it was very well accepted. They see that their own is able to deliver what they've prepared. But also we say that the project manager make the very labor-intensive use of resources. That also can be a very problematic in role of a consultant. Now let's talk about 10 commandments of professional consulting. Number 1, it's like 10 commandments in the religious books. Number 1, focus on value. Don't focus on an assignment. Focus on what value are you going to create to the client. That should be your mindset. Number 2, commit all stakeholders into action. Be careful not to consider a lot of other factors. Number 3, make sure that the client understands the complex issue. Find a way to simplify it. Yesterday, I had been having a presentation consulting of one of the projects on development of risk management systems to one of the clients. And there are some jargons in risk management which are complex, and I was able to deliver it. Communicate authentically. Don't fake it. Collaborate with the client. Work together, not yourself. Always use the client team. Conduct willing and able assessment. Is the client willing and able, or yourself, are you willing and able to do that assignment? Number 7, this is very important. Avoid scope creep. Avoid scope creep. Normally, there might be some other task with the consultant as you start doing the work. Focus on your scope. That's why definition of scope is very important at the beginning. Never do any assignment which has no terms of reference. I repeat, never do any assignment which has no terms of reference. Normally myself, I find a client is not competent to develop terms of reference. So after listening to him carefully, then you understand, you develop a second document, which you call it inception report, your understanding of the assignment. When the client has signed the inception report, that forms a very clear scope of your work. Number 8, compress the cycle of time of delivery. Compress the cycle time of delivery. Compress the cycle time of delivery. Always always promise, but under deliver. Always over deliver. If you say this work will be taking 10 days, make sure that within the 8 days you finish it. Always put somewhere a way to lean so that you may over deliver the expectation of the client. Number 9, don't take the American solution to your work. That is, customize each solution. And lastly, you need to read and read and read and read as a consultant. So if you have got those 10 commandments, you'll be able to deliver the best result to the client than what you can think of. Assignment number 21. What are the 10 C's of consulting? So the answer you can see on the screen in a moment. 10 C's of consulting. So this is a 10 commandment assessment. It is 15 minutes. Question number 1, please complete the 10 commandment assessment using grid of high, medium, and low. After everyone has completed the assessment, we will discuss in large group. Please note that, however, that this assessment is confidential and strictly for your own use. Share only what you want. So please, you will find this assessment on the website, and those who are registered candidates will send to them the assessment on the 10th commandment to know whether you are, and also we'll discuss further on the website regarding the response to this for those who have access to the inner material of the website. Thank you very much for this part, and we break for next 2 minutes before we engage ourselves on the final and last part of today's lecture, that is tools for strategy consulting. We are trying to look on various tools which are very important. One of the very important insight as a consultant, this lecture we're going to present in next 5 minutes. Otherwise, you may end up being confused and frustrated. So please, thank you very much for your attention, and let's be patient to finish our last lecture tonight. See you then in next 5 minutes, where I will be covering the final part of our discussion tonight. So as we come back, we'll continue from there. Thank you. Welcome back. Let's now go to our final and last part of our presentation tonight, and that is about the so-called strategy consulting. The tools as a tool for consulting. Now, this is an important area because you'll use it now and then. I've used these tools and they've helped me a lot to make best some money in consulting work, but also best presentation to them, my competence framework to my client. So as you're learning today, make sure that you understand very clearly. These are the top 5 tools in management consulting, particularly strategy. And mind you, strategy consulting is one of the leading consulting to the client because business is about a strategy. A well-formulated strategy will make a better pay for the client. So the first tool is regarded in a better framework of setting. In the better framework of the setting as we move towards a consulting area. Now, I can see that that part we are trying to relook it. So please, I ask you for some few minutes a break as we live and upload the necessary tools for the consulting assignment. Thank you very much for your passion. We had some challenges on the link to the materials, but we are back. And please, let's now go for our last part of the lecture tonight. And that is what we call top strategy consulting tools. The number of tools that are used on the strategy consultant, because many times you might be called for various assignments. Now these are the tools. Tools is like a spanner, like a tool that is used by a mechanical engineer or a person who is trying to make some maintenance or repair or correction of some problems with your car. That are the tools. So it's like a toolbox which a dentist has to support his work. The same to the consultant. These are important tools which can be used for a number of consulting, but typically it is very important on strategy. My first assignment when I started consulting job was to do the strategy consulting assignment, whereby I was called by a number of organizations to prepare the strategic plan for the organization, and that typically resulted into better, improved results. And so I would like you to appreciate the importance of these two at the beginning. So please make sure that you understand them thoroughly, so that next time you're called for a consultant, you need to know that part of your toolbox, they're not necessarily for the use of the client, but for the consultant. This is typically what are the things which helps you to take tire out of the car. It helps you to remove that screw that is causing some problem with the engine of the car. Those are called tools. Now, one of the top one is what we call Michael Porter's 5 forces. That is one of the very important tool which the consultant uses to achieve the best results. It's called about Michael Porter Force Model, and is one of the best known framework you can use. It is used normally to analyze the industry. It helps to determine how competitive an industry is based on 5 different factors and the library that is existing among the competitors. Those are the 5 areas. Number 1, who are the competitors of the business? Thus you need to think as a consultant. Part of understanding the business is for you to be very sure of the competitors. What do they have? What kind of strength do they have? Number 2 is about the threat of new entrants. What about the nature of the business? Is it so open? Anyone can do it. But do they need startup capital which can take time, or you can just jump in and do the business? We talk about potential competitors. So number 1 is who are the competitors of the business, live, and who are competing for the current business situation. Number 2, what are the new entrants expected? That's a futuristic view. Number 3 is a threat of the substitute products, alternatives. If you talk about Coca-Cola, an alternative could be Fanta. If you talk about water produced by, we call it Kilimanjaro water, you can have an alternative like Azam water. So alternatives, what are they, and what are their competitive edge? Number 3 is bargaining power of the suppliers. How much can you negotiate with the supplier? Are they able to supply goods while you're waiting for them to be paid? What is the credit period they can give to you? And what kind of product they can give you at a better price, so that you may be able to save costs and sell your product at a better view. But also it's about bargaining power of buyers. Do the buyers have a lot of options, or they can fall on your business? So typically the Michael Porter 5 force model is very important tool. Look on 4 areas which are very critical. As I said, about threat to new entrants, and including the barrier to entry as you start their business, including the economies of scale, brand loyalty, capital requirement, cumulative experience, government policies on your product, a new product, or what the client is doing. What about the switching of cost? But also the bargaining power of buyers. That include number of customers which the client have, and the buyer, size of the customer order, difference between competitors or differentiation of the competitors, price sensitivity. If you increase or reduce price, how will it be? Buyer's ability for a substitute. but also the buyer's information availability, how much is informed about what to do and what the product is, but also the switching cost. The switching cost is the cost for a person who was using, for example, Coca-Cola, now you want to use the Pepsi Cola. What are the sum? Because that's also will attract more buyers for that purpose. When you talk about substitute products, you are trying to look on also number of things together, and that is including the issue related to number of substitute products that are available, buyer's potential or propensity to the substitute, relative price performance of the substitute, but also switching cost, as I said before. And when you look on bargaining power of the suppliers, you are talking about something which number and size of the suppliers, uniqueness of each supplier and product. But also looking on the middle of what is shown on the screen is library among existing competitors. That include number of competitors, diversity, who are they, which size, what age, industry concentration, industry growth, brand loyalty, barriers to exist, and the so-called switching cost, which are also relevant for this very matter. In that case, automatic company trying to look on the forces and trying to look on the strength of each force. The 5 forces which we talk about is the threat of new entrants, bargaining power of buyers, threat of substitute product, bargaining power of suppliers, and delivery among the competitors. So this has helped me to do a lot of assignment when a client is new to the market, but also a client want to expand for further, so that you may see the possible ends and means. So such kind of a tool is critical. For example, we say that in this framework, industry with little competition, it allows for greater margins and therefore more attractive to enter. So this is what we have as the so-called Potter's model. And you go to your mentor with this presentation, part of the Institute of Management Consulting work. He will explain to you some examples. And there is also a work to be done on your organization or given organization to use the 5 forces model to derive a consulting support to the client. So this is part of the methodology that we use in the consulting assignment. The second tool, which is very also important to be used, is called Hambrick-Fredrickson Strategy Diamond. Mind you, this is just a tool, and when you use one tool, it provides the so-called economic logic as a consultant is doing his work. And it has never been much useful to most of people. Even myself, I've used it fairly often, but it's a very important tool. It is an attempt to explain what strategy truly means, and is a great framework to distinguish the different elements that make up a good strategy. Typically in the model, it consists of 5 essential parts that together form the unified whole. Number 1 is, when you see on the top, is what we call arenas. Number 2 is vehicles. Number 3, differentiators. Number 4, staging. And number 5, which is the middle, is what we call it economic logic. And each one element, concrete and deliberate choice have to be made on what to do, and more importantly, look on what not to do. The choices made within one element should reinforce the much choice made in other 4 elements. You need to know that companies can achieve a sound and a sustainable strategy by making proper choice also in other areas. So you may see on the arenas is where will we be active, which product categories, what channels, which market segment, geographical area, core technology, value creation. And number 2 is vehicles. How will you get there? So number 1 is where, vehicles is about how, differentiation is how also, the winning part. And when you come to the staging is what will be our speed. How do you go about delivering your product? Speed of expansion or sequence of initiation. But also the economic logic, that is the middle part of our screen there. You look on the how will the returns be obtained, the margins. Lower cost, lowest cost through scope, or premium price due to proprietary product. Product might be very special. Or premium prices because of the unmatchable people to that. So it looks on the arenas, it looks on the vehicles, that where will we be active, channel, product categories, market segment, geographical areas, technology, which value creation, that is part of arena. Vehicles, including the joint ventures, how are you going to derive your approach, licensing, franchise. You want to be in, for example, Mwanza. What vehicle do you use? Are you going to open up your own shop there? Or you're going to use a joint venture? Or you're going to use strategic alliances, or licensing, or mergers and acquisition? But number 3, you consider differentiators about what differentiates you from other. How will we be win? Including the price, styling, reliability, customization, image. But also now, after knowing the arena, knowing the vehicle, knowing the differentiators, you look now on the staging point, speed of expansion, sequence of initiative, and interval between the events. And lastly is what we call, how do you get money back? That you can do through the lower cost by scale advantage, producing a lot with a little amount, lower costs through scope and replication advantage, premium prices due to product features, but also premium prices due to the unmatchable service. So this is what we call Hambrick Fredrickson strategy diamond. It's a diamond. Even the picture of it is a diamond. It's one of the very important tools, despite the fact that most of people don't understand it very well. Why they don't understand it is a bit challenging to most of consultants. Maybe the way the names are written there, the Hambrick and Fredrickson, but it's a German kind of coming, but it's very critical as a tool. So you need to know it, and please consult your mentor. He will give you the assignment for you to better do it practically to derive the best output and results for the training we are carrying here. The third tool that we can use for our better understanding is what we call 3C Wizema value discipline. The value discipline as a model for purpose of understanding. It's a framework that builds upon the key message coming from the Porter's generic strategy that company should have a focus, should have a clear focus on what they want to be known for and what they want to excel in. There must be a very clear focus on what the company wants to be known for and what it wants to excel in. If the company tries to excel in multiple disciplines, it's likely to end up stuck somewhere in the middle. Trace and Wezema propose 3 value disciplines from which companies can choose from in order to become market leader. Number 1, product leadership. You can be leader in product, the best and most innovative product offering, like what you see in Apple. And that's what makes the difference between Apple and Windows. Operational excellence, that is cheapest product through cost-efficient production process. Or customer intimacy, that is, we call it amazing customer service and customer relationship management. So you can create your area of focus by looking on 3 things: product leadership, operational excellence, and the customer intimacy. Now, choosing one of the discipline has tremendous consequence on how the company should be operating in terms of the structure, process, and the culture. So you can see very clearly that is customer intimacy, and that when you talk about the so-called customer intimacy, that is customer service, top customer service, and the so-called relationship management, or product leadership, that is the best and well-known product offering. You can have that, like I say about Apple. Or can be operational excellence, the cheapest product through costly. What is Chinese are doing now? That is the best total value, the best total solution, and the best product. So all in all, in the middle, you find there is a white color, there is an amber, that is threshold value, and also you've got the leadership value. Both of them are very critical to that. Discipline means focusing on one thing, that will make you different in the marketplace. That we call it Tracy Wezuma Value Discipline. It's one of the two that is very important for the consultant. Now, I ask that you consult your course mentor, who is assigned to you, who shall give you more elaboration on the model, but also giving you assignment for purpose of better understanding on how to use the model. You may send it on the email, you may send it on the web application, but you need to register as a student to get that kind of facility. Another one is Ansoff Matrix. That is also an old but very useful tools for developing a presence in the market in the business you're making. There are different ways of growing a business, and you find that Ansoff identified 4 strategies for growth, which are shown on these pictures here, which are called Ansoff Matrix. It is well known as product market expansion grid. It's well known as product market. As you can see on the left, there is a product, and on top there is market. That is market to product expansion grid. And you can see on the right there is high and low. The more you go deep with your product market, the risk is low, but the more you differentiate your product, the risk is also very high. It allows managers to quickly summarize potential growth strategies, compare with the risk associated with each one of them. The many growth strategies which you can see on the picture in front of us, there is market penetration. It is offering more of existing products to the marketplace. So what you have, you just offer it more. That is what we call market penetration. The first square inside there, and it's using the existing, you can see existing product. That is market penetration. Number 2 is market development, offering existing product to the new market. Offering the existing product to the new market. So the first one is to the existing market. Now you're expanding to Congo or to another region in Tanzania. That becomes as market development. There's market penetration using the existing market with the existing product, or going further to offer the new product. But on bottom there is something else, and that is, we call it product development. That is offering new product to existing market. You can see new on the left, the market is existing. That is product. But also you see the last one is called diversification, which is a strategy of moving into new lines of business by entering new markets or industry with a new product that are either related or completely unrelated to the company existing offering. The main purpose of diversification is usually to reduce portfolio risk. Diversification is just another, like market penetration, market development, product development, a growth strategy as defined in the Ansoff Matrix. Now, from these 4 strategies, it is the most risky one, since the company has no experience into a new market, does not know if its product is going to be successful. So this is another tool that is used by the consultant to help in delivering value to the client. So please contact your mentor, who will give further handouts and the case for you to understand how to use this tool in a best way. The aim is to develop you ability and the capability to use certain tools which are very critical. But as far as I understand, even to the current moment, Michael Porter model has been used as the most effective tool as far as consulting is concerning. Another is this, very common. I led it at my master's degree, and please, I don't have copyright to what I'm trying to describe, but for purpose of learning, I'll just explain to you on the appreciation of the BCG model. It is coming from the Boston Consulting Group. You may go to their website. It's one of the highly lucrative consulting business for them, and is one of the leading consultants who have given a lot of support to the growth of other consultants, but also have conducted a lot of improvement in the business sector. It's referred as BCG Growth Share Matrix. It is designed to help companies to consider growth opportunities. So it's a matter of growth. And you do so by reviewing the portfolio of products, what kind of products you have, or business units, in order to decide whether to invest and whether to divest, whether you want to invest and whether to divest. The matrix is divided into 4 quadrants based on 2 factors. Number 1, market growth. You can see on the left part of our matrix. Number 2, relative market share. So you look both on the market growth and what we call it as the market share. So number 1, on market on the 4 types of business units, the products, there are different business unit or product. It can be some other, you can consider any product you can name about, or business unit if it's a company, which are productive units. Now, product can be, for example, chocolate, can be juice, can be the food that is mixed with the ingredients necessary, can be the small chewing biscuits or bites, whatsoever. Now, among them, you need to look on your product and divide them, even in department in the organization or in a company. The first category is what we call dogs. Those, they don't give money a lot. They are just there to support, to protect. It's just like when you talk about internal audit unit, or you talk about something which is not yet materialized. Number 2 is what we call question mark. That's an area also, the product, which is still, you've got a lot of questions concerning how can they have. So if you try to look there, the dogs have market growth rate which is lower, but they've got also the high market share. They don't bring a lot of revenue. They don't have a good markup. They don't give a lot of margin to the company. Those are the product of that nature. But when you look on question mark, those are the product which have very high growth rate and they've got very high market share, but unfortunately they don't give a lot of margin to the company. The product which the live better product for the company is what we call cash cow. These are the things which bring cash to the company. They've got a low market growth rate and they've got the low market share, but they're the one that are supporting the company on the growth strategy. And last one are the stars, which now are the new product that are bring and yet to give a lot of return to the company. So what we are trying to achieve here, we say most of business units start off as question marks with a very small market share in high growth market. Most of business, depending on how well the unit and industry is doing, it might end up to be a star or a dog. Eventually, when the industry growth is flattening, the unit will become cash cow that can be milked in order to invest in more promising businesses. This matrix is a great tool for portfolio analysis, trying to analyze different portfolio. If it's a bank, different product issue they're issuing, the kind of product and service or department that is. But it is also very important for corporate strategy. Now, for this tool to better understand and to get some case studies, please consult your mentor who will give some more highlight and give some case study for you to prepare and be more cognizant and competent in the marketplace that you're going to be consulting on. The very last tool that I want to talk tonight is what we call SOC analysis. The strength, weakness, opportunities, and the so-called challenges. If you're a strategy consultant, you use the environmental assessment tool, which is called SOC. That sometimes it was called SWOT analysis, to highlight the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat of the organization. The SOC analysis can be a very useful instrument when you begin to develop a strategy for the client. The analysis gives the opportunity to look at both the internal and external environment in which your business is being done, but also to give some basic questions to ask before you move forward with preparing the strategy. First, think about things which are internal to organization and which you can control. What are the things in that company which can be controlled by management? What are the things that the company is doing very well? And what are the things which can be improved? That is a weakness. And from that perspective, it is easy for you to advise the client or to get the information about the client's strength and weakness. Strength is how the company or the client is faring in the market. How does the profit margin look like? What is the market share? What are some product that is stand out? What is the competitive advantage? On the weakness, what are some shortcomings that need to be addressed? In what market which the company is faring worst and worse is expected? Do you have any worst cost that's expected? Do you have high turnover? Or are their products suffering compared to the competitors? On the other side, the assessment of strength and weakness offers a sense of how well we are doing and where we can improve internally. There are functions that you can direct control, but also it's important to look on the external environment, because S&W is for internal, which the business is doing. For example, in opportunities, you need to ask question, opportunities. How could change this market work at my advantage? And how could the technology help the business? What opportunities out there to increase my profits? What are my competitors? What are the companies profiting behind? But also there are some challenges. That is, how can changes in the market work to detriment? And what are the any regulations that limit my company to grow? And how the competitors, what are the competitors of the company have, and what are the competitors getting the customers? So you can have some number of questions to understand the internal and the external context of the business. So these are some basic 5 to 6 tools that are most conveniently used by consultants to help them to understand better the business and support the client to build up a best strategy. Sometimes those who are apt to the balanced scorecard model, we call the enablers factors, those which they enable the business to move forward. Rather than looking on the negative side of weakness and threat, we look just the enablers as part of our assessment. So for today, thank you very much for taking time to be together in this presentation. We are the Institute of Management Consultancy Tanzania. The aim is to build soft skill to our people to be able to use their technical capability and deliver the best results in the consulting assignment they are doing. So till next Saturday, appreciate for your attention. And on this SOC analysis, please consult your mentor, who will give you some more insight on what could be better be reflected on a case study, which you have to finish so that you may be apt on these tools. Till next week, please register with our examination. The examination is expected to take place on 4th of December 2021 and also on 4th of June 2022. You may choose either of them, and most of materials are available on our website after registration, and then you can become more competent and able person to deliver best value to your client. Till next time, bye.